Hello there, and welcome to another of Andre's artist profiles here on YouTube. Now, today I'm going to be profiling Mr. David Jones, more popularly known as David Bowie. The reason he changed his name, apparently, was due to a possibility of a confusion between him and Davy Jones of the Monkees. I can't imagine, considering the differences between those two's performance styles, how that could happen. Anyhow, I am going to have to separate this David Bowie artist profile into two parts. And I want to note, I don't even have all of his work. Most of it. But he is one of the most prolific artists, next to perhaps Frank Zappa. On the other hand, I think that there's been some gaps in his output in the last 10-15 years, but I'll get into that a little bit more later. And no, I don't have his first album, but I do have his first hit album, as it were. David Bowie, like Zappa, is one of the most unique artists out there, and he reinvents himself musically and physically all the time. I think Lady Gaga honestly owes a lot to his influence as well. Anyway, this is the first David Bowie album I have. It originally came out in 1969 under the name Man of Words, Man of Music, but was reissued when all of a sudden he had a big hit with the song Space Oddity. I really love this album. It's a lot different than other David Bowie albums. It was reissued in 1972, by the way. There's some really unusual psychedelic songs on here, like Unwashed and Somewhat Slightly Dazed, Signet Committee, and Janine kind of points to the direction he'd be going to in the future. There's also Memory of a Free Festival, which kind of points the way out of psychedelia into, well, I'm tempted to call Bowie glam rock, but a definition of any musical sort of genre does not apply to David Bowie in any way. I just want to get that out of the way right here. The next album I have by him is Hunky Dory, which came out in 1972. Again, this album really is from 1972, and had a big hit with Cha-Cha-Cha Changes, and I know I can't sing. And this is an excellent album, really pointed the way toward the Bowie sound that we all know, with Oh You Pretty Things, and Life on Mars. You know, this was really the beginning of David Bowie finding himself. You know, he still had that long hair and was still kind of a transvestite rock star, but that all changed when he adopted this persona, Ziggy Stardust and the Spiders from Mars. This is probably his best known album, and the most associated with glam rock, but I am going to tell you, this is one of the funkiest, stripped down glam rock albums you're going to hear. I think it's even beyond glam rock. I mean, look at this track listing. 5 Years has an amazing stop-start drum line, and of course Moonage Daydream. He pretty much sets up his whole persona there. Suffragette City and Ziggy Play Guitar. Fantastic concept album. If you don't have this great classic rock album in any genre, a little plug there, you need to get that. Now, a friend of mine who is now deceased gave me this album, just gave it to me, and I was amazed. This is the digitally remastered edition of Aladdin Sane. Not Ziggy, but an Iggy-type character Bowie created. A lot of people get that confused. There's a great booklet in here with all kinds of cool pictures from that era, and a lot of writing on Bowie and whatnot, but I'm not going to get too much into that because I have to, Bowie and his outfits there. Love those pants. Anyway, so this album includes, Driving Saturday, Panic in Detroit, Watch the Man, and all that kind of stuff. And there's a bonus tracks, the Gene Genie as well. This album includes Jean I'm Only Dancing, a single, and his own version of All the Young Dudes, which was done, of course, by Mott the Hoople. Okay. The next album is Pinups. This is a cover of British rock songs that Bowie did. That's his wife at the time, Angela, in 1973. Really good album. I mean, at least I find it to be so. He actually had a hit on this album with his version of Sorrow. It's on his Greatest Hits album. This is the 30th anniversary edition of the Diamond Dogs album. He began to experiment with Philly soul on this album and transitioned from his Ziggy Stardust, Aladdin Sane persona into his sort of Thin White Duke era. But anyway, it has 1984 on it, of course. But there's a big rock and roll hit on here called Rebel Rebel. It's the perfect transition album. There's some funky stuff on here, and there's some rocky stuff on here. They're quite different, actually. Now, if you want really straight R&B with David Sanborn and John Lennon appears on this album, you gotta get this, Young Americans. It's a great funk soul album. As a matter of fact, James Brown was so fascinated by the riff of Fame on Young Americans here from 1975, he used it for his song, Hot, I Need to Be Loved. I consider Bowie a funk artist, to be honest. Even if he does rock and roll, there's something really funky about David Bowie, you know, and he's such a great performer. And there's such a genuine admiration. I had another edition of this before, but I have the double CD edition now. Ordered it through the old BMG Music Club when it was available. This is one of my more recent acquisitions, Station to Station. Golden Years was Bowie's first full headlong delve into funk. You may call it disco, but it's not disco. It's full-on clavinet, bass, rhythm, guitar funk on Golden Years. And he really starts to develop the Thin White Duke character on this album, and a transition from funk, more or less, into his, electronic persona, which he began on the next album with Brian Eno, called Low. The first half of this, as you know, is pop songs. The second side are electronic soundscapes that are being explored today in the most abstract of trance and EDM and whatever. This is an amazingly innovative album. I think people are still understanding its virtues. It's not all a pop album, one whole side. All this stuff right here is instrumental. And the other album in 1977, a little more vocal-oriented, was Heroes. I love the title song for this album. This is the second part of Bowie's Berlin trilogy. He was leaving Los Angeles to escape a lot of drug problems that he was having at the time. And he did this with Brian Eno. And this album has more pop orientation, and is a little harder edged than Low, but still a great album overall. This is a live document of Low and Heroes called Stage. There's some pictures of Bowie at that particular time. And to complete the 70s and the Berlin trilogy, here is Lodger from 1979. DJ and the Boys Keep Swinging. This is again a return to a more funkier sound. Or, oh boy, I'm sorry about that. This tripod is probably in the way a little bit for David Bowie. Anyway, that's what I have for 70s David Bowie. And now, on the next video, we are going to explore David Bowie, the 80s and beyond. So to be continued.